in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning, and we are live from the mobile rig as I continue to test out being remote and connecting via Starlink. We'll see how this does, but we do have veto session, and we're in the throes of, so I appreciate you guys being here. And we got a couple of things to tackle yesterday with veto session in session. You had legislators not really accomplish a whole lot, some hearings and a ton of news conferences. But some of the things to expect, obviously, the transit cliff, where you've got $230 million fiscal cliff by the end of the year. How are they going to cover that? Is it going to be tax and fee increases for you, the taxpayer? A lot of people expecting that. But you've also got the question of the state's migrant sanctuary policies, the Trust Act, the Way Forward Act, and what some Democrats are hoping to do before the end of session. So all of that coming together. It's day 2 of 3 for the final week of fall veto session. I'm expecting it's going to be a long day today, and it's probably going to be a long night tomorrow. So what can you expect? Stay tuned. We'll get to that here with Illinois in Focus Daily, each and every weekday morning here with the Center Square. Go to thecentersquare.com, and people checking in here and saying volume is low. Just give me a thumbs up if it's has corrected, because I know I had to boost it a little bit right up there at the beginning. But give me that thumbs up if you guys can hear us all right as we broadcast here remotely with the remote rig. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily right here with the Center Square. Taxpayers, you can expect a tax increase of some kind. What is it going to look like? Is it going to be a tax on retail delivery? Is it going to be a tax on Uber and Lyft? Is it going to be some kind of environmental fee? Not sure yet, but details still being hashed out behind closed doors as Democrats try to drum up the votes in order to get a revenue stream for the fiscal cliff of the Regional Transit Authority. Now, this is Illinois in Focus Daily. We are in the throes of fall veto session, final few days here, as we've got a lot of activity expected. And legislators in these final 3 days of the calendar year, they've got a tall order. Everything from, the idea of the transit cliff to how they're going to handle immigration policy, which we'll touch on in another segment, and even questions of a governor veto. Will we see one of those overridden before the end of the week? Still uncertain, but clearly there's a ton to tackle, and other things as well, energy. So taxpayers, you could find out when you wake up Friday morning that there was a tax increase to fund the fiscal cliff, and there was an omnibus energy package, and that's energy legislation that includes a whole bunch of stuff. Could that mean your rates for your energy is going to increase? These are the debates they're having at the State House. But let's go ahead and get on into it with Senate Minority Leader John Curran and State Senator Sue Rezin, Republicans. They held a news conference talking about how they believe Democrats are going to hinder the economy further by their actions of looking to increase taxes to fund the transit fiscal cliff. Here is Senator Curran discussing that yesterday.
Reform first. It does not make logical sense to, at the same time, you're going to put a bunch of reforms in place and put a new group of people in charge to also, you don't know exactly what you need. We know the cliff keeps getting pushed out. We know the amount keeps coming down. Let's put the new people in first. Let's reform the structures. Let them get their arms around it, and then let's talk about what is needed.
Now, State Senator Mike Simmons was at a separate news conference where he discussed the need for, he says, a modern transportation system, and he's pushing for what the Senate passed in May. Now, if you were following us back in May, it was the tail end of regular scheduled session where they had to get a budget in place, and it seems like there's always a last-minute push to get the budget in place. But there was also a measure out of the Senate that increased taxes, $1.5 billion, including that $1.50 retail delivery tax. So the Senate passed that, and then the House, they never picked it up. Since then, we've heard people in the House complain about the possibility of raising taxes. Democrats saying that they don't like the idea of raising taxes. But how are they going to fund this fiscal cliff? Mike Simmons sharing that this is something that he believes must happen.
This is a smart investment, not just for transit, but also for our local economy. And there have been endless studies from Cranes and other sources that make the case that investing in public transit to the tune of $1.5 million is how we take our economy forward, not backwards in this region.
Governor J.B. Pritzker also yesterday being asked about the possibility of tax increases, and he said it's hard to find new revenue streams.
The House of Representatives has been meeting to determine what it is that they could tolerate. Nobody wants to, revenue is always hard to raise for anything, even when you know it's hyper important. And so they're still considering what those things are. I've tried to be careful about what I've told them because I want to make sure that they are considering all the options. And then, from my perspective, what I want to make sure happens is that we end up with a world-class transit system for the whole state.
What does that look like when it comes to the funding aspect? Again, the Republicans pushing back on this idea altogether.
This process, called decoupling, not only prevents taxpayers from what would be automatic savings,
well, and we'll get to
but
that.
it also makes.
We'll get to that here in a moment. That was John Curran talking about yet another tax increase that could come before the end of the year. And that is decoupling from the federal tax changes. But back to the Transit Authority. So you heard Curran earlier say that he wants reforms before we start throwing money at the Regional Transit Authority. We're talking Chicago Transit Authority, Metra, PACE, RTA. But the bill that the Senate passed that had that $1.50 retail tax, it also had $200 million going to downstate regional transit. So they, making the argument that this isn't, the entire state paying just for Chicago transits. It's the entire state paying for all kinds of mass transits. But Simmons, I asked him about the management of this because the Republicans are saying we can't continue to throw money at an organization that's already gotten a ton of money. What are they doing with the money? They've had increased funds for years. Is it new programs that were used with temporary dollars, or are they, just paying exorbitant amounts with inefficient systems in place? Simmons says that the management side of this is important, but he says that there needs to be that funding stream.
Well, the legislation that the Senate passed, House Bill 3438, includes reforms. We think, to be really clear, the reforms are just as important as the funding. I don't think you want one without the other. So I personally would not have supported legislation that has funding with no reforms, and vice versa. The thing we really have to do is do both at the same time. And so the reforms that are captured in this legislation would expand the governance so that you have a more unified set of oversight systems across all the counties. It's giving the different counties that oversee these public transit systems equal voice in terms of the decisions that are made and how decisions get signed off on in terms of infrastructure investments, in terms of service frequency, in terms of the efficiency of those services. And that's a step forward, right? We got to have those reforms if we're going to really meet the moment for our public transit systems. And that was accomplished in the legislation that the Senate passed in May, and that we're hopeful that the House will take up and pass this week.
And again, that legislation, months old now, a lot of discussion had about how to fund regional transit. But I asked Simmons, listen, taxpayers wake up at the end of every session you guys are in and they read the newspaper or they listen to this program and they find out that there's another tax increase. How many more tax increases can they take? Here's Simmons. More efficiencies.
Well, we built a lot of efficiencies into the legislation that the Senate passed, so I want to be real clear on that. Look, my generation, I got to the Senate in 2021. We do the work. We come in with revenue ideas. We don't just spend and kick the can down for the next generation the way the generation did before us. We have in the Illinois Senate and the Illinois General Assembly, we have passed balanced budgets every year that I've been in this building, and that's been since 2021. And I think that's a testament to the governor. That's a testament to my colleagues that understand the importance of being responsible fiscal stewards of taxpayers' dollars. That said, the efficiencies are in the legislation that the Senate passed in May. And those are going to help us to run systems that are better coordinated, with better universal fare systems, with more efficient schedules for both for our rank and file riders, but also for a corporate CEO who's trying to get to work, right? We want them to be able to use public transit too. And so you need systems that actually work. And so the efficiencies are there. In terms of the revenue, it's time to talk about this in terms of what it actually is. Are we asking regular folks to pay more taxes? No. Are we asking Facebook, Amazon, and big corporations to put a little bit more skin in the game? Yes, I think it's well overdue that we do that. And I feel that the reason I supported the legislation we supported in May is because it is equitably structured so that the bigger corporations have to put a little bit more skin in the game. Now, if they're passing the buck down to rank and file problems, that's a problem, and we ought to talk about that. But this has been done in a way that is fiscally responsible, and that can be accomplished this week.
And you heard him talking about how he wanted Amazon and other retailers to pay that surcharge, that $1.50 surcharge, and that was at least his intent in voting for it out of the Senate in May. But everybody's seeing that as, well, that's just going to be passed down to the consumer. And something with tax policy and economists, they say, businesses never really pay the tax because they just push that down onto the consumer to ultimately pay that. So we'll see how that shakes out, but State Senator Sue Rezin was very passionate about pushing back on this idea of the transit tax because taxpayers can't afford it.
Well, first of all, if you look for the past 7 years, we've added $1.3 billion from the capital bill that was supposed to go to roads and bridges in our districts, but instead went for operating expenses for the CTA. So clearly, they're operating at a deficit, and they haven't changed their business model and why they're in a deficit. On top of that, they are asking for all of these new taxes throughout the entire state. We don't use the system. Why should downstate and central Illinois pay a new fee on every package delivered at our house? Many people rely on the ability to receive their goods at their house because they don't have access to transportation. So they're having packages delivered, whether it's baby diapers or formula, delivered at their house. So this new tax is only starting, I don't know what it is, at $1 or $1.50, but the door's open, right? It's a new tax, and every year when we need more money for the CTA in Chicago, all they have to do is raise that tax.
So Rezin saying that this really opens the door for that tax to come back again and again and again to where they raise it. But that's not the only tax issue that could come up. Senate Minority Leader John Curran talked about how Democrats are looking to decouple Illinois' tax from the federal tax under the Trump administration with the big, beautiful
If the Democrats are serious about improving Illinois' economic growth, they will start with making the difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions with constraining state spending, reducing taxes, and improving Illinois' economic environment for all Illinoisans. Every time Democrats run into a cash problem, they make matters worse by reaching further into the pockets of Illinois families who can't afford it. One short-sighted cash grab we are expecting the Democratic majority to use this veto session is decoupling from some of the newly passed federal tax benefits so they can squeeze a few more dollars out of our already struggling Illinois businesses. Like many states, in Illinois, federal tax savings are passed on automatically to our taxpayers unless we pass legislation to proactively opt out. This process, called decoupling, not only prevents taxpayers from what would be automatic savings, but it also makes tax filing more complicated for Illinoisans, leading to audit issues. The Democrats' plan is to increase taxes on the economic engines of our state, while at the same time making taxes more complicated for Illinoisans.
So we're looking at the possibility of the transit tax. We're also looking at the possibility of businesses having to learn how to balance a decoupled Illinois taxing scheme to what the federal taxing scheme is. And this is all something that could happen before the end of the day Thursday, or maybe even into the early morning hours Friday. We'll be there at this Capitol to keep you posted. Go to thecentersquare.com and stay up to date with those headlines. But again, that's not the only area you could see some cost increases. You could possibly also see some cost increases from an energy omnibus bill, where everybody knows that energy prices have skyrocketed. And it's burdensome for families. It's burdensome for businesses, especially manufacturers. Manufacturers Association earlier this week held a news conference blasting the legislation, but environmental groups, they are saying that this legislation is needed. And Democrats held a news conference with some of these environmental groups. And State Representative Jay Hoffman, he said that everybody knows energy is high, and this legislation that would tack on another fee onto utility bills to help subsidize battery storage. And it has a whole host of other components in there. And you've got Republicans countering, saying that that is not the way to go, doubling down on energy that's not reliable and too expensive is going to only increase cost. But here's Hoffman talking about what he says is the need for this particular piece of legislation to subsidize battery storage.
The issue of energy capacity here in Illinois. The spikes that we have seen beginning in June on the customers' bills is unacceptable. We have to act, and we have to act today, and we have to act tomorrow and get this through this veto session, because we can't go through another summer of these horrendous spikes in electricity bills. This will address that. It was mentioned that this will provide $13 billion in net benefits to the customers. That's residential customers, that's manufacturing customers as well.
So you've got Hoffman talking about how he believes it's going to bring about savings, but are those savings really going to be realized? You've got others talking about this, including State Senator Sue Rezin, who is adamantly opposed to the idea of this bill increasing the rates for ratepayers in Illinois.
Now, I watched the previous press conference. They blamed it on several things. I will tell you why your prices are going up. Because capacity is being forced offline. Natural gas plants in the state are being forced offline. Natural gas is the cheapest way to provide capacity, which is what we need because of the new economy, the AI economy that you hear about. We all agree that we need more power. I agree with my colleagues that just spoke. Many states are looking at how to solve this problem. The difference is, in all of the other states that they mentioned, they're building out natural gas combined cycle plants to be able to power their data centers. They're not doubling down on expensive renewable power, such as wind and solar, and now battery, and transmission lines built in to move the power from another state from wind and solar that are paid by ratepayers.
So you've got, again, the ongoing questions of how exactly all of this is going to be paid for. The Citizens Utility Board was there, and they were with the Democrats pushing for this legislation, saying it's important that this legislation get passed so that they can have that new form of energy moving forward, but all of this under the guise of decarbonization, which is getting rid of natural gas and coal-fired power plants. But Cub saying that this bill is important.
As we in Illinois face soaring electric bills, market architects applaud these high price outcomes for sending strong market signals. Well, then, it's time for our state to respond to these signals and act now to protect Illinois consumers. SB 25 gives us the tools to do that. These tools, such as energy efficiency, battery storage, virtual power plants, and optional time of use rates, can work on a system-wide level to cost-effectively help us avoid electric price volatility. but they're also tools that regular residential electric customers can deploy at home to take control of their own energy bills.
What is all this going to look like on your energy bill for businesses, for families, resin
This
countering?
bill was written by special interest groups and rubber stamped by the governor's administration, leaving Illinois families to pay the price. It lifts the caps that protect consumers, hands sweeping new powers to unelected regulators, and doubles down on unreliable energy sources that simply cannot sustain our state's power needs. This proposal will lead to higher electric bills, less reliability, and fewer options for families and manufacturers alike.
And Resin continued to talk about the energy needs in the states and how this bill is the wrong path.
Are financed by ratepayers. Why is that? Because that's the best gig in the world. They get to finance projects that are paid for by ratepayers. They, of course, can go out and bond that kind of money. We all want that kind of financing, but we don't get it.
And this is all, again, is something that could happen before the end of session come Thursday evening, or I hope it's not early Friday morning. But regardless, the Center Square will be on the ground there reporting to you, and you can find those headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for that newsletter today. Sights from outside the federal courthouse in Chicago yesterday, where Greg Bavino, a Asian immigration official, had to go in front of a judge, and a judge saying, you've got to follow these particular policies, and I want daily reports for the next week. So Bavino's going to have to go back to the federal courthouse to sit with the judge to tell her how the day went. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. Be sure to go to thecentersquare.com, get the headlines in your inbox, or you can read the blow-by-blow that Jim Talamonte from the Center Square put together yesterday, being in court for a good chunk of the day. But as you saw there, you had protesters outside as well, as Bavino was walking into the court. So let's get into this, because it's not just the immigration enforcement question and public safety. You've got the Democrats at the State House very concerned about the use of federal officials and how they're going about in Illinois enforcing immigration law. We've had this debate now all year as President Donald Trump has surged the streets of Chicago with federal immigration officials because, as the Trump administration says, Illinois has migrant sanctuary policies in place that prohibit state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration enforcement. And you've got story after story, video after video, showing people in some kind of conflict with federal law enforcement, getting up into each other's space. People being thrown to the ground, federal law enforcement having to deploy like tear gas, for instance, to disperse large crowds that are surrounding them while they're trying to enforce federal immigration law. But here in Illinois, you've got Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's been very adamant opposing the Trump administration. And yesterday, he talked about Gregory Bavino being in court to answer questions about alleged abuses of power.
But it's never been like this, where they are breaching people's constitutional rights. And I can name you 4 of the 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights that they are breaching. And indeed, they were in court today, ICE, on this subject. Gregory Bavino, who runs the operation in Chicago, who ran the terrible operation in Los Angeles before, was hauled in before the judge because essentially he's not been following the judge's orders. And he's now being ordered to, all of ICE has been required now to wear body cams, just like local police do. And he himself, who's been part of those actions on the ground, is not wearing a body cam. They also have not produced all the body cam footage that they're supposed to. And if you could see what they are doing, and if you've not gone online to social media to see some of the videos, please do. It is awful. I've never seen anything like this I'm 60 years old. As long as I've paid attention in the world, I've never seen anything like it.
So the governor upset by what he's seeing, and it doesn't really seem to change the Republicans, who are very much opposed to the state's migrant sanctuary policies. Now, over the weekend, horribly tragic news came out of a county official and his wife being killed in southern Illinois. And there was speculation that the driver of the vehicle that led to that death was here illegally, and Republicans at the State House were able to get the documents proving that the driver and the passenger of this vehicle that took the life of a county board member and his wife was here illegally. And they held a news conference yesterday. And Adam Niemerg, state representative from Southern Illinois and Republican, he talked about the state's migrant sanctuary policies and how they're damaging public safety in Illinois.
I wish that, like Pam Bondi said, that the Illinois Democrats, love their state as much as they hate Donald Trump. Then we might actually see change. So no matter what they do, no matter what federal immigration authorities do, no matter how careful they are in these instances, there's still going to be videos by Illinois Democrats trying to put a narrative out there that puts ICE in a bad spot. So ICE is trying to protect, Illinois honest citizens, and the Illinois Democrats are trying to protect criminal illegal aliens, and that's the end of the story.
And you've got Niemerg with more comments that he made, but as you heard him say there, they're putting together videos, Democrats, to put ICE in a bad light. Well, Border Patrol officials, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, they as well are putting out videos. Let's go check out what Gregory Bavino had recently posted just a few days ago. Terrorist arrested in Chicago had beef with the law. And he shares pictures of a Mexican national, drug facilitator, being arrested. He also talks about another drug dealer and Latin King gang member dethroned. Operation Midway Blitz, which is the operation in Chicago, picked up this Honduran illegal alien living in Chicago and affiliated with the Latin Kings, a violent gang. You've got others like Tricia McLaughlin, who is the Assistant Secretary of DHS, criticizing the Chicago Tribune reporting on a video, but questioning, are they going to show the violent rioters that were approaching these particular law enforcement? So you've got others, sharing more Homeland Security overhead video of certain instances, and you can see all this yourself at the Department of Homeland Security's Twitter page. But here's Bavino after going to court saying, we refuse to back down from our mission to make America safe. And again, a flashy video with images of Bavino in all kinds of dress, seeming to highlight his stature of sorts. Video is going to be coming out from all over the place on this issue and beyond. But back to the debate at hand, State Representative Lillian Jimenez, who is a Democrat from Chicago, she said, listen, there are serious abuses, she says, alleged abuses that are happening among the streets of Chicago with ICE enforcement of immigration law.
And there have been many times where many of my colleagues have talked about the fear of a tyrannical government and making sure that we uphold the Constitution, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment being the key parts of these things so that we are safe from illegal search and seizure, right? And what we're seeing right now, multiple district courts have spoken that these arrests are warrantless and they violate the Fourth Amendment. And that is what we should be thinking about right now. Yes, we are talking about immigrants because that's who's being targeted. But you have heard time and time again from each one of us. Each one of us has said it is not just immigrants who are being targeted. It is not just people who are undocumented who are being targeted. It's anybody who looks a certain way.
And the question of the Fourth and First Amendment violations include, the issue of people being able to gather in groups and protest, or the right of the free press. And you've also got the Fourth Amendment, the right against unreasonable search and seizure, and the need for a warrant, for instance. So Democrats using all kinds of examples of what they say are abuses, and people pan out as you've got the continued enforcement of immigration law. And just to note, people watching live, a few dropouts, but we do record these segments locally. So if you do have a dropout on the live stream, come back and check out the segment. Also, those who listen to the podcast, each and every weekday morning you get the podcast, but there's also that video component. I had somebody approach yesterday saying they only listened to the podcast. They didn't realize there was a video element. So appreciate everybody who does tune in. But just wanted to get that out there because I did see that the streaming device dropped for just a few seconds there. But back to State Representative Adam Niemerg, again, very critical of the state's migrant sanctuary policies during a news conference yesterday. As Democrats talk about all of the instances they have and video evidence of what they allege is abuses of ICE against the people in Chicago, you've got Niemerg and Republicans highlighting that people are losing their lives at the hands of immigrants in the country illegally. And more from Niemerg.
When you look at the narrative that's being put forth by the governor and the Illinois Democrats, when you look at who's appointed these judges over the years on these immigration hearings and these proceedings, it usually all ends back to either a Biden administration official or a Pritzker administration official that makes these allegations against Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
So he's trying to downplay what some of the district judges have said in these cases. On the House floor, you had State Representative Edgar Gonzalez Jr. Have a point of personal privilege yesterday, and he had some choice words for immigration enforcement officials, again, on the House floor.
Americans have many questions tonight. Americans are asking, who are behind the masks? The evidence we have gathered all points to a collection of loosely coordinated and horribly trained terrorist organization known as ICE. They have descended upon our communities for decades and are the same armed mercenaries charged with terrorizing working class communities in Los Angeles and New York City. But when ICE sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing their problems to us. They're bringing guns, they're bringing tear gas, they're racists, and none, I assume, are good people. But there are those who maintain a glimmer of hope for the salvation of these agents. Moments after I and members of my community were tear gassed by the midget Gregory Bavino and his armed thugs, actions which today they have misconstrued as he presents himself in court, a young man was appealing to the goodwill of an agent right in front of me. He couldn't tell if the agent was looking at him or listening to him, but he told him, "You don't have to do this. Please seek God." But I'm not sure that ICE will find him. Because when you train men to see brown skin as a threat, imagine how they would have treated Jesus Christ. They're too busy worshiping their president that they have forgotten his words, "Whatever you did to the least of these, you did to me." Matthew 25:40.
So Gonzalez using some biblical passages to criticize ICE. He even went further to reference Moses and the parting of the Red Sea and more.
Before Moses parted the Red Sea and delivered the Israelites from the dominion of the Pharaoh, another man who saw himself as a God king, Moses said to the Pharaoh, "Let my people go." If the president can learn anything from Scripture, there are consequences to tyranny. To him, to every agent, to every official, I say the same, let my people go. Thank you.
And the House erupted into applause, but Adam Niemerg, after that was said on the House floor at a news conference, criticized Democrats.
Well, the Democrats call ICE terrorists. Folks, you saw this today on the House floor. Call ICE terrorists, savages, animals, predators, and thugs. Predators and thugs. They coddle and protect criminal illegal aliens who murder honest citizens. Stop the narrative and protect honest, law-abiding citizens. This was preventable. God bless Mike and Gail Clayton.
And he's, again, referencing the two individuals who lost their lives over the weekend in a fatal crash caused by an illegal immigrant who was in the country illegally, who are, by the way, being detained, the suspect in that fatal crash. So one question that I have, of course, we're in veto session. We talked about the tax and fee increases that could come. We've talked about the energy policy that could come. Something else that could come is a measure that Democrats say they're working on to enhance the state's protections for undocumented residents that they call, or illegal aliens, as the federal law would dictate. And I asked if they enhance the Safety Act, if they enhance the Trust Act in the state of Illinois, enhancing migrant sanctuary policies. The current policies in place are why the federal government has surged on the streets as they have. And the images that we see of men in fatigues, carrying guns, sometimes some armored vehicles, trying to enforce immigration law. Are Democrats worried that if they enhance the migrant sanctuary policies, that's just going to mean a doubling down from federal officials, and we'll see more of these types of videos on the ground of Chicago? State Representative Will Guzzardi, Democrat from Chicago, responded to that question I had for him yesterday.
I'm just going to add this really quickly, and then we'll move on to the next question. But just to say, our laws don't impede federal law enforcement from conducting their work. They're laws that guide state and local law enforcement. We want to talk about the Constitution. The federal government doesn't like our laws, so they're going to send troops to our streets to terrorize our citizens until we change them. That's not a kind of bullying that we're going to accept in Illinois. Next question.
All right, so what happens the end of fall veto session? Your guess is as good as mine, but I guess I'm on the ground, so I'll know before you, and I will let you know as soon as we get the details. Go to thecentersquare.com, sign up today for the newsletter, and wake up with us here each and every weekday morning for more of The Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, it's all I got for you today. Minor little hiccups here and there, just a couple of drops of the live stream. But again, you can get the entire podcast in your podcast player, however you get it. Just search Illinois in Focus. But you can also come back and watch the restream, or you can check out the individual segments of this program. All right, it's each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Have yourselves a great day. We'll be back at it tomorrow here with The Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily.